Good afternoon, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. I am sitting in our living room, and I thought what I would do is show you the books that are in the bookcase. As you all know, we recently had new floors put into our first floor of our house, and I had a bookcase here in the living room that was filled with books and CDs. And what I did when we put new floors in and we put the bookcase here, as you all know, I told you the other day, I went through my CD collection, was thousands of CDs, and what I did is I stored most of them down in the lower level in the storage room. I put them in a moving box, and I gave some to our son, and I gave some I'm going to give some to thrift stores, but there are no CDs in the living room. There used to be at least about 500 in here, but now all I have in here in this bookcase is books. And I thought what I would do is just show you a bookshelf tour and just show you the books, not really go into them, just to show you of all the books I have in my library, which are thousands, which one would I put into the bookcase up here? Well, one thing, it had to fit. It couldn't be like a big art book. It had to be a certain size. Let me get rid of this blanket here, it's in my way. So these are the books. I'm on the first shelf. I might do a second shelf in a future video. First book is The Archivist, a novel by Martha Cooley. I've had this for a long time and I haven't read it. And then another novel, The Life Writer by David Constantine. I have not read this either. And this one I have been reading, almost done. The Ascetic Adventure by William Gaunt. I showed you this book in a recent video. And then we have The Common Ground, Turbulent Decade in the Lives of Three American Families, winner of the Pulitzer Prize by John Anthony Lucas. And then we have Stewart, A Life Backwards. It's like a biography by Alexander Masters. I did read this a number of years ago, but I can't remember anything about it. I have read Madame Bouvier by Gustave Flaubert. I have many copies of this. It's one of my favorite novels. I read it a couple of years ago. I should reread it. This is by Ken Kesey, or Kenzie, Sometimes a Great Notion. This is his first novel. No, maybe, yeah, this was his first novel. Then he wrote of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it's part of the Beat movement, the Merry Pranksters, the Grateful Dead. This is the Berlin Stories by Christopher Asherwood. And then we have Anna Kovin, Ice. This is translated, I think it's a translation. Nope, Anna Kovin, Ice. Then we have Gore Vidal, The Smithsonian Institute, a novel by Gore Vidal. It's a picture of him. Then we have I can't pronounce it, Cato's Adventures by Andrew Gee. And then we have Velta Jesus, no, Velta Venus by Annis Nin, erotica. And then we have The Future of Architect by Frank Lloyd Wright, nonfiction. I used to have a big Frank Lloyd Wright, but then I dehauled it. But I did keep this one. A Room with a View by E.M. Foster, a very famous novel. Have not read it. Another Gore Vidal, A Judgment of Paris. I did read this a couple of years ago, but I don't remember anything about it. I did read it. This was given to me by my son Josiah. The Poetics of Space, the classic look at how we experience intimate places by Gaston Bachelard. Have not read this either. I assume it's nonfiction. And then I have The Faculty of Useless Knowledge by Yuri Dombrowski. This is translated, I think, out of the Russian by Alan Myers. Very famous Russian novel. Joan Dion, A Book of Common Prayer, a novel. Another Joan Dion, Miami. I think this is nonfiction. Yeah, it's nonfiction. Paul Ramsey, 9 Modern Moralists. Paul Tillich, Karl Marx, H. Richardson Niebuhr, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Niebuhr, Jean-Paul Sartre, Emma Brunner, Edmund Can. It's nonfiction. This is by Camille Paglia, Vamps and Tramps. These are essays. Joyce Carol Oates, What I Lived For, a novel. There's a picture of her in the back when she was younger. This one came out in copyrighted 1994. This is Shadowbound by Steve Erickson. I was reading this. I don't think I finished it. I think it came out recently. Came out in 2017. Then we have the famous novel Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. This is one of the books I had when I lived in California about 35, well now it's going on 46 years ago. This edition was published in, I think I brought this with me from California. Yeah, this is 1974. Yeah, I brought this with me when I left California to come to Grand Rapids 46 years ago. Then one of my favorite writers, D.C. Boyle, The Inner Circle. A fascinating fictional rendering of what life might have been like during research for the famous sex professor Alfred Kinsey. Have not read this. Then we have poetry by Kenneth Rexroth, 100 poems from Japanese. One of the San Francisco poets from the time of the beat movement there in San Francisco. Visual Shock, A History of Art Controversies in American Culture by Michael Kalman. Another book by him I have. Mystical Chords of Memory, The Transformation of Tradition American Culture by Michael Kellerman. I was reading this, my bookmarker's in here. I think I read, but I got bogged down, but I still want to get back into it someday. And then Key West writers and their houses, the influence of Key West and its architect and 20th century poets and writers, from Ernest Hemingway to Thomas McCain. This I was reading recently, The Atmosphere of Heaven, The Unnatural Experiments of Dr. Benedus and His Sons of Genius by Mike J. I was reading this and then I stopped. I don't know how far I got into it before I stopped, but I have to get back into reading that. And then a little book, The Art and Culture of Japan. Yeah, Carol picked this up and she gave it to me, and I like Japanese art. Things like that. Then In Ruins, A Journey Through History of Art and Literature by Christopher Woodward. Nice little book. I had this for a long time. This is by Gordon Campbell, The Hermit in the Garden, From Imperial Rome to Oriental Gome. Yeah, I used to keep this by me in my reading chair over there. But The Hermit in the Garden. Another art book by Gustave Moreau. He's part of the Pre-Raphael movement, Magic and Symbols. These are like pictures of his artwork. The necropolis under the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Another art book. Well, more like a archaeology. Ancient Angkor. This is like in, I think, in Southeast Asia. Thailand, I think it is. Yeah, those ancient cities. So yeah. Ivan Antric, The Bridge on the Durina, I can't pronounce it. Anyway, it's a very famous book. This is translated out of Russian, I think. Translated from the Sirba Croat by Lovellette E. Edwards. Very famous book. Novel. Against the Grain by J.K. Huysmans. This is out of French. This is part of the decadent literature. I just showed you this book by him, The Parisian Sketches. And he also wrote The Damned by J.K. Huysmans. I can't pronounce it. One Way Street. These are essays by Walter Benjamin, translated by Edmund Jopcott and Kingsley Shorter. Introduction by Susan Santang. To a Distant Island by James McConey. This is historical. But Chekhov, who was a doctor, going to the Siberian prison colonies. Then we have William Gaddis, Jr., very famous. This has been, I don't think they have reissued this yet, but this is Jr. by William Gaddis. And they just published his letters, the New York Review of Classic Books, Letters of William Gaddis, edited by Stephen Moore. And then I read this, The Hooligan's Return, a memoir by Norman Mainena, and this is translated, no, this is not, I just finished reading this a couple months ago. And then I got this book I showed you recently from the Bluestocking Bookshop, Wittstadt, Design in Vienna, 1903 to 1932. So it's all, I showed you this book just recently. So that's in the first bookcase. So I thought you'd be interested to see what's in the bookcase. The first shelf. These are the kind of books I like having up here to kind of stretch your mind. So I just thought I'd show them to you. Now I gotta put them all back in order. Yeah, this is a Monday. It is going on, I think, 3 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a Monday. Carol and our granddaughters and Emily, their mother, went to pick blueberries. And I'm just hanging out, just enjoying the day. Hope you're having a good Monday, and thank you for watching this video. And if you got any questions about the books, be free to ask me. And until next time, bye.